The court in Leicester heard the 24-year-old genuinely believes she was the missing girl who disappeared in Portugal in 2007.
Did you kidnap and kill Madeleine McCann?
At 6:45 a.m. On a quiet morning in Praia da Luz, Portugal, police vehicles rolled into an area that had been searched countless times before. Officers taped off land near the seaside resort, forensic teams combed through soil and scrub, and for the first time in years, authorities acknowledged something chilling. The Madeleine McCann case was not closed. More than 18 years after a 3-year-old British girl vanished without a trace, investigators were back, not because of hope alone, but because of new urgency. In September 2025, the man identified by German prosecutors as the prime suspect in Madeleine's disappearance, Christian Brueckner, walked free from prison after completing a sentence for unrelated convictions. He was released without ever being charged in the McCann case. No arrest. No trial. No body. Just freedom. For Madeleine's parents, Kate and Gerry McCann, it was a moment that reopened a wound that never truly healed. For investigators, it was a race against time. German prosecutors admitted publicly that while they believe Madeleine is no longer alive and believe Brueckner is responsible, they still lack the definitive evidence needed to prosecute. In the months leading up to his release, Brueckner refused to cooperate with British police, declining formal interviews and remaining silent as renewed searches were carried out near places he lived in 2007. Those searches ended quietly, without major findings, a silence that spoke volumes. Nearly 2 decades on, the Madeleine McCann case exists in a haunting limbo. A suspect named, but not charged. A child presumed gone, but never found. And a world still asking the same question it asked in 2007. What really happened to Madeleine McCann, and are authorities running out of time to prove it? Before she became a symbol of one of the world's most infamous missing child cases, Madeleine was just a little girl on a family holiday. And it all began on an ordinary night that was never supposed to end like this. Before her name became synonymous with mystery and heartbreak, Madeleine Beth McCann was simply a lively, curious 3-year-old girl with bright eyes and an infectious smile. Born on May 12, 2003, Madeleine was the first child of Kate and Gerry McCann, both medical professionals from Rothley, Leicestershire, England. To her family, she was affectionate, confident, and fiercely independent, a child who loved stories, playtime, and being the center of her parents' world. By the spring of 2007, the McCann family was looking forward to a relaxing break from demanding schedules. They chose Praia da Luz, a quiet holiday resort on Portugal's Algarve coast, a destination marketed specifically toward families. The resort promised safety, sunshine, and peace. It was the kind of place where parents felt comfortable letting their guard down. Madeleine traveled with her parents and her younger twin siblings, Sean and Amelie, who were just 2 years old at the time. Friends later described Madeleine as protective of the twins, often checking on them and mimicking her mother's nurturing behavior. She was talkative, imaginative, and already developing a strong sense of personality. The McCanns were not alone on this trip. They were part of a group of British friends, many of whom were also doctors, vacationing together with their children. During the day, the families enjoyed beaches, playgrounds, and shared meals. At night, they planned simple dinners nearby while their children slept. Nothing about Madeleine's life suggested danger. There were no warning signs, no known threats, no reason to believe this family holiday would end in tragedy. To everyone who knew her, Madeleine was safe, loved, and deeply cherished. That sense of safety, so carefully constructed, would vanish in a matter of minutes on a warm evening in early May. And when it did, the world would never look at this case the same way again. The evening of May 3, 2007, began like any other during the McCann's holiday. The children had spent the day swimming and playing in the sun, exhausted in the way only toddlers can be after a full day outdoors. By around 7 p.m., Madeleine and her 2-year-old twin siblings were bathed, put into pajamas, and settled into bed inside apartment 5A of the Ocean Club Resort. Kate and Gerry McCann planned to dine nearby with friends at the resort's tapas restaurant, located less than a minute's walk from their apartment. From the restaurant patio, they could see the general direction of their accommodation and agreed to check on the children regularly throughout the evening. At approximately 9 p.m., Gerry McCann left the table to check on the children. He later stated that everything appeared normal. Madeleine and the twins were asleep, and nothing seemed out of place. Roughly half an hour later, another member of the group conducted a check and also reported no issues. At 10 p.m., Kate McCann left the restaurant to perform her own check. When she opened the bedroom door, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Madeleine was gone. Her bed was empty. The window was open. The shutters had been raised from the outside. Madeleine's blanket and favorite toy were still inside the room, but the child herself had vanished. Kate ran from the apartment screaming, "They've taken her!" Her cries echoed across the resort as friends and guests rushed to help. Staff were alerted, and within minutes, people began searching the surrounding area, bushes, streets, and nearby buildings. Local police were contacted shortly afterward, but the crucial early moments slipped away. Border alerts were not immediately issued. Roadblocks were not set up. And as the night wore on, the realization slowly sank in. Madeleine McCann had disappeared without leaving a trace. What should have been a routine evening had turned into a nightmare. And as dawn broke over Praia da Luz, the question everyone feared began to take shape. Had someone taken Madeleine, or had something even worse happened inside that apartment? In the hours after Madeleine McCann was reported missing, Praia da Luz transformed into an international crime scene. Local residents, tourists, and resort staff joined the initial search, scouring streets, construction sites, and nearby beaches. But despite the urgency and good intentions, the response was disorganized and delayed. Portuguese police did not immediately treat the disappearance as an abduction. Border alerts were not issued for nearly 10 hours, allowing anyone who may have taken Madeleine time to leave the country. The apartment itself was not sealed as a crime scene until the following morning, meaning potential evidence was contaminated by foot traffic from friends, staff, and volunteers. By the time forensic teams arrived, crucial early opportunities had already been lost. As media attention intensified, the case quickly became politicized and chaotic. Investigators pursued multiple theories simultaneously: abduction, accidental death, parental negligence, without clear direction. The lack of coordination between Portuguese authorities and British police created further confusion, with conflicting statements and investigative approaches emerging in the public eye. Within months, the focus of the investigation shifted dramatically. In September 2007, Kate and Jerry McCann were formally named arguidos, or official suspects, by Portuguese police. Authorities claimed inconsistencies in their statements, and alleged traces of blood were detected inside the apartment and the rental car the family later used. The decision to name the parents as suspects sent shockwaves across the world. Media coverage turned hostile, tabloids published relentless speculation, and the McCanns found themselves under intense scrutiny. Grieving parents now forced to defend themselves against allegations of involvement in their daughter's disappearance. Yet despite years of investigation, no charges were ever filed. In 2008, Portuguese authorities formally shelved the case, citing insufficient evidence. The McCann's arguido status was lifted, and the investigation went dormant. Unanswered questions lingered. Had the early investigative challenges allowed a perpetrator to escape? Had critical evidence been lost forever? Or had the focus on the parents distracted investigators from a far darker truth? For more than a decade, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann remained one of the world's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Leads dried up, public interest slowly faded, and hope for answers seemed to slip further away. Then, in 2020, everything changed. German prosecutors publicly identified Christian Brueckner, a man with a criminal record, as the prime suspect in Madeleine's disappearance. Unlike previous theories, this announcement came with an unprecedented level of confidence. German authorities stated they were certain Madeleine was no longer alive and that Brueckner was responsible, even though they still lacked the evidence needed to formally charge him. Brueckner had been living in Portugal at the time Madeleine vanished. Phone records placed him in or near Praia da Luz on the night of May 3, 2007. He owned a campervan and worked odd jobs in the area, giving him both mobility and familiarity with the resort. Authorities noted he had a history of past convictions for criminal activity, though none had previously been linked to Madeleine's disappearance. Investigators revealed that Brueckner had also been connected to other unsolved incidents in the Algarve region during the same period. Witnesses describe a man matching his description lingering near holiday apartments, and prosecutors disclosed that a phone registered to Brueckner received a call shortly before Madeleine disappeared. Despite these revelations, the case hit a familiar wall. Much of the evidence against Brueckner is circumstantial. There is no body, no confession, no forensic proof directly tying him to Madeleine. Brueckner himself denies any involvement and refuses to cooperate with investigators. Still, for the first time in years, authorities had a suspect whose background, location, and behavior aligned with the worst fears surrounding Madeleine's disappearance. The case was no longer frozen in time. As of late 2025, the Madeleine McCann case remains active, with investigators continuing to follow leads across Europe. While nearly 18 years have passed, authorities emphasize that the case is far from closed. The most significant development came in September 2025, when Christian Brueckner was released from prison after serving unrelated sentences. He has never been formally charged in Madeleine's disappearance. His release reignited global attention, as authorities and the public alike wondered whether new searches or investigative steps could finally uncover answers. Before his release, Brueckner declined formal interviews with British police, maintaining his silence regarding the disappearance. Investigators also noted that he had previously been in the Praia da Luz area around the time Madeleine vanished, a fact that continues to place him under scrutiny. Meanwhile, searches in Portugal resumed in mid-2025, focusing on locations near where Brueckner lived. The searches concluded quietly, but officials confirmed that all leads were carefully pursued. Despite the passage of nearly 2 decades, authorities continue to coordinate across Germany, Portugal, and the UK. Modern forensic techniques, digital tracking, and thorough investigative work all remain part of the ongoing effort. The central question persists: will authorities finally locate Madeleine or uncover definitive evidence that conclusively resolves this case? Nearly 18 years after Madeleine vanished, the investigation continues, yet critical questions remain unanswered. Despite renewed searches, witness reports, and a prime suspect, authorities have been unable to fully resolve the case. One of the biggest challenges is evidence limitations. Madeleine's body has never been found, and without it, investigators cannot definitively prove what happened. While Brueckner remains the prime suspect, much of the evidence against him is circumstantial. Another obstacle is jurisdictional complexity. The case involves Portuguese, German, and British authorities, each with its own legal procedures, investigative standards, and priorities. Cooperation has been strong, but cross-border investigations naturally slow certain aspects of evidence collection and prosecution. Additionally, false leads and public interference have complicated matters. Over the years, individuals have made claims of sightings or knowledge about Madeleine that were later proven untrue. These distractions consume resources and can delay genuine investigative progress. Finally, time itself poses a challenge. Memories fade, potential evidence deteriorates, and suspects may move or remove traces of their activities. Investigators must work with what remains, often reconstructing events from decades-old data, witness recollections, and historic records. Despite these difficulties, authorities remain committed. Searches, interviews, and forensic analysis continue, demonstrating that while the case is unsolved, it is far from forgotten. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann has left a profound and lasting impact, not only on her family, but on the world. Kate and Jerry McCann continue their tireless efforts to keep Madeleine's story alive. They have never given up hope, organizing searches, engaging with authorities, and appealing for information that might finally reveal the truth. For Madeleine's younger siblings, Sean and Amelie, life has been shaped by absence and uncertainty. While they have grown up surrounded by love, the void left by their sister is a constant reminder of the unanswered questions that hang over the family. Friends, volunteers, and supporters across the globe share in the longing for closure, a return of Madeleine, or at least the knowledge of her fate. As authorities continue their investigation, the world watches closely. The renewed searches, Brueckner's release, and ongoing forensic analysis all signal that justice is still pursued, even after 18 years. Yet the central mystery remains: where is Madeleine McCann? And will the truth ever come to light? A little girl vanished on what should have been an ordinary family holiday, and despite tireless efforts by multiple countries' authorities, her story is still unfinished. The investigation presses on, not only to resolve a decades-old disappearance but to honor the memory of a child who deserves to be found. As we follow the latest developments, one thing is certain: Madeleine McCann's name will not be forgotten, and the search for answers will continue until the truth is revealed.